everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Value Wagering. I think I say that all the time, but it is special because some of you know that recently I've talked about in my column and also on my podcast the Score with Simon promotion. And what this is, unlike the Hefner-esque name, is almost like a pari-mutuel mutual fund, whereby players will be allowed to throw money into a pool. I will do the handicapping, I will do the betting, with the hope, of course, that we'll make some profits. Now, there are a lot of downsides to this, in that I won't be able to use my fair odds. I've got to get the bets in at a certain time. Also, I'd like to space the bets over certain periods of time. But probably the biggest question that has come up, people have asked me, and I've asked myself, is how am I going to approach the betting? Because, of course, traditionally, when I've given out free picks, I've always just given out win plays. Because, frankly, win plays are a lot simpler, very, very straightforward. Also, they're not as affected by money thrown into the pool, typically. Because, of course, if you have a big payoff in a race, that implies that there aren't as many winners. And when you start betting exotics and you're looking for those big payoffs, you've got that to overcome. And especially in this type of a situation, it can be difficult. Again, though, people always tell me, well, Derek, you got to go with the exotics. That's where the fun is, the big returns, all that kind of stuff. So what I did recently that I thought I would share with all of you is a study on exotics, specifically the exacta and the trifecta. And what I did is I looked at my win factor method. And I've talked about my win factor method before. That's an automatic or computer-generated fair odds line. And so I took a look at the best races, the bettable races. And those are the races rated at 75% or better. And I'm not going to get into the percentages. That's just a way of looking at different races and assessing inherent value of the race and also how predictable is that race. So I looked at races 75% or greater, and I thought we would start by taking a look at the statistics of win betting, just looking at the top selection, the top contender on my win factor line in races rated 75% or better, and you'll see that they win 35.4% of the time, and they return an ROI of minus 8.48%. Now, of course, you might look at that and think, well, that's no good. You're not going to make a profit that way. Well, true, you're not going to make a profit, but that ROI is about half of what you would lose if you just bet indiscriminately or bet favorites. So at least it's a stepping stone. Now, I added some criteria as I went along here. The second bit that you'll see there is we're looking for a race rating of 75% or greater, the top win factor rating greater than 1, and you see that improves the statistics somewhat, although they're still not positive. Now, they turn positive when we look for the top choice in a 75% rated race or better, a rating of greater than 1, and a horse that finished in the money in its last race less than 25 days ago. There you see a 41.2% win rate and a 7.1% ROI. So, of course, the question would be, can we improve upon those numbers by betting the exotics? Let's start first with the exacta. And we're going to go back to the start and look at just races rated 75% or better, and you'll see that there are losses across the board. And what's worse is that those losses are more pronounced as you start to go deeper into the contention, which a lot of people do. A lot of people love to wheel, use a key, or whatever. Now, you'll notice that I always stuck with the top choice. I did test the second and third choices on the line, and the stats were even worse. So we're just looking at the top choice here, but you'll see it's not very encouraging. Now, if we go down just a little bit, you'll see that as we start to add the criteria that I did with the win bets, that it gets better, but not a whole lot better. Initially, with a win factor rating of greater than 1 in a race rated 75% or better, you'll see there is a positive ROI on a 1-2 exacta. And by 1-2, that means, of course, the first choice and the second choice. And so you're looking also at a very low probability of that coming in, 8.9% to be precise. Now, the numbers get quite a bit better when we look at that third category. And you'll remember that when we looked at just straight win bets, the winning percentage was 41%, but the ROI just 7%. Here, looking at the top choice, keyed with the second choice, just a straight exacta, 10.1% winning rate, which isn't bad for an exotic, and a 34% ROI. So some merit possibly to that approach. Now, where I did start to see some nice positive returns is in the trifecta. And this is interesting because, in my opinion, It's easiest to pick the winner of a race. It's a little bit harder to pick the second place finisher in a race. It's a whole lot harder to pick the third place finisher in the race, the fourth place finisher, and so on. And I think that's the advantage that trifectas have, is that you can get some nice payoffs simply by having a horse that finishes third at nice odds, 50 to 1, 60 to 1. And a lot of horses can do that. I mean, you can have two, let's say, great front runners. One of them battles the other one into defeat, and that other one starts to back through the field. Doesn't mean that that horse is still not the second best in the race, but sometimes, many times actually, races don't run that way. So let's take a look at the trifectas, and we'll see, using that first criteria, if you take the top choice with the second choice, with choices 3, 4, and 5, you can find some slight positive ROIs, or slightly positive returns, 28.69%. The problem here is you've got a 5% win rate. And you'll notice again, as we go through those categories, the ROI steadily increases. 51% where you have a win factor rating of greater than 1 and a race rating of 75% or more. And then a 92% ROI when you have all the criteria attached to the selections. Now again, very low probability, 6.8%. But the thing I do like about this last category is that you'll notice that the average average trifecta payoff is about $170, which is actually quite low for a trifecta. But if you take several of those out, you can still be profitable here. And so that's the part that encourages me. However, at a 6.8% win rate, keep in mind that losing streaks are going to be the norm, not the exception. 20 race losing streaks, 30 race losing streaks, you name it, that kind of thing is going to happen. So in answering whether or not exotics are going to be a part of Score with Simon, I think yes, and I think especially down the road as I do more studies like this. But I think this does illustrate why I'm a bigger fan of win betting than I am of exotic betting. For your own psyche, it's better because you're not going to lose as much. And also, of course, you've just got that consistency day in and day out. You're not waiting for the one big payoff. And for a pool like this, where I'm handling other people's money, is it in everybody's best interest for me to wait for that one payoff? I mean, imagine if you're investing in the pool and the one day you can't because you're visiting grandma or whatever, that's the big day.